Okay, so we're still at 80. We just passed by Boston, one that's heading at 120 from air traffic. So what we've got to look for now is getting back down into Heathrow. We've got to start managing the flight. Air traffic controller controlling us, but nevertheless we have to manage the flight to get the airplane where we want to be.
Okay.
So in this case, we probably would say to Heathrow, request further descent. They may have forgotten about us, okay? So they say, okay, episode 123 cleared 3,000 feet on QNH 1012. So let's put 3,000 feet in the window.
QNH 1012,
Okay.
123.
Let's start off with vertical speed. So press the vertical speed, roll wheel upwards to get the minus 1,000. That'll just start us off down the tramp. We can check how we're going a little bit later on.
Okay.
Now descending on QNH 1012, so we've got to change it back from standard on the altimeter.
Yep.
And there we are, we've got 1012 on there, ready to go. So cross-check the altimeters, passing 7,700 feet now.
Checked.
So we're happy our altimeters are set.
So that changes immediately when we're given clearance.
As soon as you clear to an altitude, you set the QNH, okay? Even though you're still above the transition altitude. Because you've got to get yourself ready for the descent. So we want to make sure we've got the ILS is tuned. So Heathrow is 109.5, which we've got on. Inbound course 270. We double check at the top of the PFD here that we've got a white 270.
Yep.
If we get the track wrong, you'll see it goes orange with a line through it. Yep. So 280, 270 is giving us the correct thing. Also want to think about setting the order brakes. Now, there's a long runway here. We're going to the end of it. So we can probably just get away with order brakes 1 today. Order brakes 2 will stop us a bit short, so I'll put order brakes 1 on there. Okay.
Got master caution for air conditioning.
Okay, well that's because we didn't reach flight level 120 a little earlier on. So we can change the altitude in here, or we can just simply ignore it. And I think in this case we'll ignore it. You press the master caution, so that's fine. So episode 123, turn right heading 150 degrees.
Right heading 150, episode 123.
Okay. So now if we look at our profile information, you can see there it's showing us that we're 600 feet below the profile.
Yep.
But that's using that magenta line. We're slightly outside it, so we've actually got more track distance to run than the computer thinks. So we're in good shape. We're okay out here. Okay. And he's just moving us around this area just to make sure that everything's going okay. He's slotting us in with other aircraft. But we also have to start managing the flight. So if he specifically requests us to be at the speed, we have to hold that. Otherwise, we can manage it. So let's start bringing the speed back now ourselves to sort of the flaps up speed. So reduce the speed to somewhere around about 210 there. That's good? Yeah, that's fine.
Now I would call for flaps 1 somewhere around that up speed.
Yeah, when we're approaching the flaps 1, you don't have to wait to get to the actual speed before selected. Okay. What's more important is have you got any restriction or speed above you, and there's no bars there on the speed tape, so we are actually safe to select flaps 1 at this stage of the game.
Right, yes.
But we would not generally do it because we don't want to stress the flaps in high speed.
So if you don't need the drag, don't use it. If you don't need the flaps, don't
correct.
use it.
A lot of people think flaps are to provide drag. That isn't the case at all.
It's to provide lift at slower speeds, right?
It is purely to provide extra lift at low speed.
Yeah, the drag's just...
Episode 123, turn right heading 180 degrees.
Right heading 180, episode 123.
So now we can think about reducing our speed, getting our flaps down.
Okay,
so let's reduce our rate of descent to 500 feet a minute because we're nicely below the profile. So we've got plenty of room to manoeuvre here. That'll help us with the speed just watch off. So now you can perhaps call for flaps 1.
Okay, flaps 1.
Okay, speed check, flaps 1, and you adjust the speed.
That's another thing outside of the sim that's very important to remember, guys. You can easily lean over and hold the wrong knob here, wrong button, wrong switch. It's really important.
It's very easy to do.
Yeah.
Episode 123, turn right heading 270, and you're clear to intercept the ILS.
Right heading 270, cleared ILS.
Okay. Just let the ball off as quick as you can, otherwise we're going to go through it. That's it, there we are, we're actually captured onto it. Lovely. So once we're captured, we can also arm the approach.
Okay, so we can arm it right now because we've captured it.
That's right, once you've captured it.
So now we're going to wait to intercept the glide slope, so that shows on the PFD as white.
Correct.
Waiting to
We've
intercept.
actually gone through the localizer. You can see the turn on was just a little bit late from the controller there. So you can see the bank angle's gone up to 30 degrees.
Okay, yeah.
When the autopilot's controlling it, it will normally restrict you to 25, and unless you're actually capturing the localizer, then it will actually increase that up to 30 degrees if necessary. So it's coming back in.
So at this point, whilst it's doing that, we could set up our approach, our speeds.
Yes, absolutely.
Like that.
So let's put our ref for flaps 30 in.
So we'll do flaps 30, so it's 146. And I will leave it on that page. We double check ILS, we've got a frequency set. Auto brake is on, it's on 1. Yep. And could I go flaps 5 now?
Well, there's no need.
There's no
We're doing
need.
fine. Why would you want to slow down and put the drag out? We're low on the profile.
Okay,
We're
so
doing fine. If you put the flaps out, you're going to burn more fuel.
Yeah, so
The trick is to get the airplane from A to B burning a minimum fuel. So even flaps 1 possibly was a little bit too soon. As you can see, we're 16 miles out on the ILS, but I'm just trying to slow it down for the turn onto the localizer.
Right, yeah.
So here we are, go back onto the localizer, the speed there, fine.
Okay. At this point, I assume we're just looking for airports in sight.
Oh, it's all right.
We're just looking right now to see where's the airport.
Yeah, we're just monitoring everything, making sure everything's stable, watching where we're going, making sure the plane's behaving properly. A little bit wandering on the localizer for some reason. Oops, we've just suddenly lost a load of information here. And this can actually happen on the real aircraft. Look, we've got all sorts of things going on.
Right, okay.
Suddenly come back in again. It's sort of, but we've lost all the information here. So to some extent we've got a little bit of possibly a manual operation here. So luckily we've got all the instrumentation still working. So we're level at 3,000 feet, looking for that glide slope to come in.
Yep.
3,000 feet, it would normally be 9 miles away, but if you've got 3,000 feet above the airfield for the glide slope. So you can see we're at 12.6.
Yep.
So we've still got another 3 miles till we get onto the glide slope. But we could think about possibly starting to slow down now. So this perhaps would be time to go to flap 5 now.
Okay, so I'd now say flaps 5.
Okay, speed check, flaps 5, and you change the speed. There we are, there's the glide slope. Just come arrive at the right time.
Okay, yep. That's alright. Now would we, if something like this happened on the aircraft, would we try and get back into this?
No, just leave it alone. You've got there's the world, everything here is working. Forget about that.
Okay.
That's a typical case where you could get distracted into that, and then you miss the important things.
So if you don't need it, don't use it.
The TriStar flying itself into the ground in the Everglades because they were fiddling around down here. Okay. Here we are, we're going to glide slope capture.
Yep.
So we want our go around altitude, let's pull out 3,500 feet today.
This approach altitude set.
Good.
And now single channel here, this is talking about auto land should we choose.
That's right, it's warning us that we've only got one autopilot engaged.
Okay.
So just telling them, make sure that you're actually only doing a category 1 type approach today.
Okay.
So do you want some hand flying practice?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, find out, I'll be operating the controls for you in terms of the flaps and gear from our end, but that's fine, you're actually caught.
Okay.
So there's the autopilot display. So now follow the flight director. It's very sensitive, you've got to react in very quickly. But monitor the diamonds for the localizer and the glide slope, because those are your hard signals. So that's what you're really working to. The director is just telling you how to get them.
Okay. Yeah. So the crosshair in the PFD, we don't really have to worry too much about. It's telling us, giving us guidance.
It's giving you guidance how to get those diamonds back into the right position.
The diamonds obviously is what
The
we're actually
diamonds is the critical bit. The director's just helping you get there.
Okay.
Okay.
Now at this point, would we be wanting to go flaps 15?
Well, we normally associate gear down flap 15.
Yeah, so
these days, you tend to leave it as late as possible again for fuel burn.
Okay.
Also, Heathrow will ask us to maintain 160 knots and 4 miles.
Right.
So it's pretty well close to the cusp of that in terms of getting the gear, the flaps and the speed back into the right thing. But for the practice today, we're coming up to 5 miles, so we'll bring the gear down now, shall we?
Okay.
So gear down, and flat 50 at the same time. And then you say to me, set speed.
Set speed.
Because you would be doing it with the autopilot engaged, I do it when you're flying manually.
Got it.
Now you would normally be operating the thrust levers here. Do you want to take those, or do you want me to do that for you? Okay. So we've got about 41-42%. The trick is to watch that green arrow in the speed box.
Yep.
See, it's telling you you're decelerating.
Yep.
You don't want to decelerate anymore, so push some power on. It takes a few seconds for power to translate itself into speed or lift.
Yep.
So you've got to work ahead of the game, as it were. That's good. Okay. So now go for 25 flat.
That's 25.
Okay. And I'll just adjust speed very slightly. And this time you could also go to full 30 flat now straight away.
Okay, so flat 30.
Okay, that's 30. The big ref was 142, was it? 44. Okay, so 149 on speed. So there we are.
1,000.
So gear down, landing flap set, that's landing chance complete. Now you want about 55 to 60% normally for this. So just ease your power up a little bit. Follow that glide slope, that's it, well done. So now it's a trick of watching the runway, look at the instruments. Watching the runway, look at the instruments. Alternate between the two.
So you just have to get into a flow of that.
Yeah. See, we're reducing speed now, so you've got to put some power on. But we're also going a little bit high, so drop the nose. That's it.
So just get into that pattern, get into that routine.
That's it. 500 feet warning, we would say check, make sure we're both, or you would say check, I'm approaching the minimums.
Now here is where I decide whether to land or not.
Now don't let the nose lift up. It's very tempting to let the nose go up.
Landing.
Okay.
Is this alright?
Yeah, drop it through red, but it's okay. Ease it, just ease it a fraction, no more than that. Don't lift the nose too much, otherwise you'll float.
Okay.
Okay, he's coming on the wrong with it soon. Keep the nose down.
40.
Yep.
Keep the nose down, you see you've lifted it, you're floating.
Right.
Ease the power off.
10.
Hold the nose where it is. Ease the nose forward now. Don't forget you're steering with your feet.
Yep.
Okay. Speed brake is up. You would normally do the reverse. I'll do it for you today.
Okay.
That's it. Keep it straight if you can.
Go.
knots. 60 knots. You let it roll, looking for this high-speed turn-off.
Okay.
There's one there, so start down towards it if you can, I think.
Yep. Am I still braking?
Yeah. Well, the auto brakes is on.
The auto brakes are on.
Yeah, they sort of come on.
Yeah.
There
So
we
we
go.
should probably just go a little bit.
Okay. You got your feet on the brakes, take your feet on the brakes.
So we just come off at this high speed exit.
Yeah. Not too much on the thrust point. Race away.
What's the normal taxi speed for these aircraft? Is it?
It depends where you are. On the room, you can vacate around about 35, 40 knots.
Okay.
Once you're on the taxi, 25 usually is the maximum to
Okay.
go for.
That pilot has no patience.
Yeah, that's one thing. I've got the tiller guy on here.
Okay. Oh right. Okay. So the tiller even works on these.
You haven't got a tiller on. First time doesn't have a tiller on the 7.3. It's only a captain's tiller.
Right. Lovely, and we're done. So at this point, we'll switch off the landing lights.
Yeah.
Switch on the taxi light. Runway turn off light goes off.
Yeah, daytime you wouldn't bother with the taxi light.
Oh, okay.
Normally.
Do that.
But I mean, again, different companies have different policies on this. Some say it's a good idea to have it on so other aircraft can see you, etc., etc.
Now, would we bring the flaps up now as well?
Yes, start bringing the flaps up now.
What's flaps 50? It's a D10 to 50. Ah, there we go. Got it. So again, very different. It's a very different experience. Whilst it's familiar to me, having the procedures from the actual pilots, seeing how it's done in practice. Where I think you mentioned this to me once when we were talking, that the procedures in practice is not what you might expect that you might just do when you're practicing in a sim or anything like that. In real life, it works differently because obviously you're in that environment where you've got to do things on the fly.
Well, in the simulator, of course, you're actually practicing failures. In real life, you very, very rarely come across failures. So in a sense, you're practicing for two different things. But you do these days in the simulator, you do what's called the loft exercise, which is a line-orientated flight. And basically, you would be given a flight as if you might be doing one, say, from Birmingham to Salzburg or somewhere, and then something happens and you're given a challenge, you have to divert somewhere, and they want to see what your decision-making process is, etc., etc. So that's sort of geared to being a normal flight, so that if you came across that in real life, you'd probably have a better chance of handling it, as it were. So that's the idea of all that.
Right.
And that works well. And then, of course, on the sim, you're actually practicing your basic flying skills on one engine, etc., to make sure that you can handle the aircraft. But again, decision-making, crew resource management within that's all part and part of the check operation. It isn't just a flying skills test, it's about how you manage the flight, etc., etc.
Okay. So there is a lot that actually goes on in the sim, but obviously, that's why I think I probably mentioned this in the video that you guys are watching. I've probably already mentioned this, but you'll notice that on the footage that you're looking at, you can only see out of one screen somewhat. These are more accurate screens. Am I correct that you said these are
what's called a collimated display.
So there you go.
It gives you the correct screen view. Because with a projected screen, you get an offset. If we had a projected screen of the runway or the taxi line, to me it'd be to my right, to you it'd be to your left. It's just the way it works. But with the collimated display, which is two separate individual displays, they're both absolutely accurate for both pilots.
Yeah. So there you go. So that's why you guys may see a slightly distorted image, because this is how a professional sim would be set up with these types of displays. So that obviously for training, the pilots have got the most accurate representation they actually can. And we don't really have much out the sides because, as Chris said, there's no need to really be looking at the sides. The point is in front of us right now. That's what we're trying to sort out. Is there Terminal 5?
Yeah. All to ourselves this morning, I'll think of it.
It's got a couple of BA aircraft down that side, but it's empty. There wasn't a drone flying over here earlier, was there?
Well, something of an overreaction, to say the least.
I actually heard on the news that at one point the drones that they kept seeing, one of those drones were their own drones.
It was a police one.
Yeah, it was the police drone.
I think it was just a huge overreaction. I mean, if a swan flew across the runway, you wouldn't close the airport.
So, in your opinion, why did they close the airports? Obviously, I know drones and the dangers of drones, but why close the airports for that long? Do you think it was just, like you said, a complete overreaction, or do you think
Yes, I think it was overreaction. If you've got a drone flying in the vicinity of the airport, which you feel might possibly have a collision with an aircraft, which it probably wouldn't damage even if it did, but I mean, if you think it might, then by all means suspend takeoffs while that drone is in sight. But to close the airport constantly for a long period of time like that just really was totally unnecessary.
Right.
And now, as you say, there's some reports that the drones were either not even there, or there were possibly even police drones that were being seen by people. So yeah, I think a lot of people were incredibly inconvenienced. I think some safety management stuff was done. People just making sure that they couldn't be criticised afterwards for making the wrong decision. But,
Right.
Yeah, I don't think it merited what they did, that's for sure. I think it had been handled a lot better.
Okay. Shutting this aircraft down, how quickly would you go about shutting
Well, normally
the
we would
aircraft
just shut the engines down and then pull the power off and all the systems off, but we leave it in this mode because other people are coming into the flight, so it saves having to go through the whole
Because
system.
obviously, I'm sure people have seen on videos, starting an aircraft up can take 20, 30, 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Shutting it down, a couple of minutes?
Oh, not even that really. Actually, a physical shutdown takes about sort of 15, 20 seconds. But then obviously you've got the checklist to follow after that.
Okay. Lovely. Well, thank you very much, Chris. And
well flown. That was very nice. Good approach.
I was surprised. Thank you. I was kind of surprised, but I think that also shows sort of experience. I only had a few hours beforehand that I've flown, getting back used to the 737, but getting used to the 737 again. I was sort of like, okay, I know that this aircraft's sort of going to do this, which is really good. So I think that shows how important home sims are for people serious, how important these sims are, as you've explained, for pilots training. And then you said that these things are very close to real life. It's just certain things are not quite as accurate.
This is as good as it gets.
Wonderful.
Good. Glad to do it.
That's brilliant.
Okay.